Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're taking a look at the new Blackwing cards announced for Darkwing Blast, which is the core booster set that will be following up Power of the Elements. This set is actually set to release in Japanese in July, and then in English in October of 2021. So we've got quite a while to go till we get it, but people were obviously buzzing about it when the announcement was made last week. I recorded this video 3 times prior, and unfortunately did not happen to realize that my mic wasn't actually working properly for any of them, so this is going to be a one-way straight through take regardless, because I am sick of looking at these cards. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into the video and talk about the new Blackwing cards. So if you guys do enjoy the content, please hit the like button and subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below if you're excited about these. I definitely think Blackwings have gotten quite a lot of support over the years. I wouldn't have penned them as the first thing to give support to when there's still so many legacy archetypes awaiting it, but here we are, so let's take a look at them. Starting off, we've got Blackwing Vada the Knave, which is a level 2 Dark Tuner monster. Obviously, they're all going to be winged beasts, and this one seems to be like an expansion of Vayu, which is graveyard-oriented, except this one is a bit different. If you control a Blackwing monster other than this card, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only summon Vada the Knave once per turn this way. During your main phase, you can send this card on the field and one or more Blackwing non-tuners from your deck to the graveyard whose total levels equal exactly 8, and if you do, special summon one Blackwinged Dragon from your extra deck. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except dark monsters. So it's neat in the sense that it does allow you to synchro summon from the deck, which I believe may be the first card of its kind to do it, and it doesn't really have any other restrictions. As you know, some Blackwing cards actually trigger in grave or can at least activate their effects in grave, so this does set you up for future plays, meaning overall it's a really interesting combo piece that I think has a lot going for it. Of course, you do have to send non-tuners, so you can't send things like Vayu, but that's clearly meant to be a balancing factor, and it's not like you can't send things to then set up for revival on future turns with Blizzard the Far North. So overall, I do think Vada's pretty good and definitely a solid play starter, as well as extender, because you can just special it from the hand if you control another Blackwing. Next up, Blackwing Shamal the Sandstorm is a level 4 dark monster that is also a tuner. You can send this card from your hand or face up field to the graveyard, place one Black Feather Whirlwind from your deck, face up in your spell and trap zone. Black Feather Whirlwind is not the same thing as Black Whirlwind, and we'll get to it in a few minutes, but this card says, if a Blackwing Synchro monster or monsters and or Blackwinged Dragon is special summoned to your field while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card, then target one Blackwing monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, and if you do, take 700 damage. So of course that's meant to work in tandem with Blackwinged Dragon. When you would take damage, you instead put a wedge counter on it, so on and so forth. So it's a cute piece of recursion that allows you to get a Blackwing monster back from the grave by just summoning out one of your Blackwing Synchros. Not to mention that getting it in grave is pretty straightforward, and you get Black Feather Whirlwind from the deck as a result. So another pretty solid card. I just don't know what ratios or numbers will look like for either of these cards. Next up, we've got Blackwing Chinook the Snow Strike, which is a level 2 Darkwing Beast non-tuner. You can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, then target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Send one Blackwing Synchro monster or Blackwinged Dragon from your extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do, until the end of this turn, that monster loses 700 attack. Also, its effects are negated. This is a quick effect if you control a Dark Synchro monster. You can only use this effect once per turn. So it's essentially another effect veiler, with, of course, the benefit of being able to use it during either turn if you control a Blackwinged Dragon or a Dark Synchro, which in Blackwings is not hard to do. The majority of your targets are going to be Dark Synchro, so it's pretty easy to fulfill that condition, and having extra negation is pretty solid. Not to mention, getting Blackwings engraved from the extra deck will come in handy with things we'll showcase in just a moment. The final one is Blackwing Suthri the Illusory Spark. It's a level 4 non-tuner. When this card is normal summoned, you can add one card that mentions Blackwinged Dragon from your deck to your hand, except Blackwing Suthri the Illusory Spark. You contribute one monster. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except Synchros. Also, special summon one Illusory Spark token, then take 700 damage. So, of course, another card that combos with Blackwing Dragon's burn effect. You're basically preventing the damage and getting another wedge counter, which is a really neat combo piece. And overall, this being a searcher from the deck that can get any of these new cards, such as Chinook or Vada or any of the other ones we haven't gotten to yet. And the tribute effect is a nice little addition. It does sort of remind me of a somewhat weakened Steam the Cloak, but it's obviously still good within the deck and serving the purpose that it's intending to serve. Now, the last main deck monster is level 6 monster, of course, Zonda, the Timely Knight. So this, plus Vada, you can send directly from deck to grave to make your Blackwing Dragon or any of your other level 8 Blackwing Synchros, so it's a neat piece to have access to. While this is on your field, you cannot special summon from the extra deck except Synchros. Not a huge restriction in this deck, I think it's going to go mostly Synchro heavy anyway. You can only use one of the following effects of this card per turn, and only once that turn. If this card is normal or special summon, you can target one monster on the field, return it to the hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard, and if you do, special summon one level 5 or higher Blackwing monster from your hand or deck, then take damage equal to its attack. Okay, so if it's normal or special, you can bounce something, which is pretty solid if you're reviving this or getting it out with something else. And it doesn't say you have to bounce an opponent's monster, so in some rare circumstances, you might actually be able to proc something back to your hand that will allow you to special it later or combo off in a different way. But of course, banishing from grave to special summon a level 5 or higher Blackwing from deck is pretty good as well. One of the first things that comes to mind is Sirocco, but I know there's a few other lesser known Blackwing monsters of higher levels, and I'm sure they might have some synergy with this. I think you'd probably just play, realistically speaking, maybe just another copy of this, because it can grab itself based on the translation, but there could be some other ones you want to splash in there, because that is a free resource that you get, and so there's not really any reason you wouldn't want to have access to being able to grab something extra from the deck. Now, moving on to the cover card, Blackwing Assault Dragon. Blackwing Assault Dragon is a level 10 Synchro monster that says one tuner Synchro monster and one or more non-tuners. You can either Synchro summon it or special summon it by banishing a tuner Synchro and a Blackwinged Dragon from your field and or graveyard. Each time your opponent activates a monster effect, place one Black Feather counter on this card after it resolves, and if you do, inflict 700 damage to your opponent. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can tribute this card with 4 or more Black Feather counters, destroy all cards on the field. So it's not super hard to get those counters, because it is if your opponent activates a monster effect, but it is a little reliant on the opponent in that regard. Reminds me of Stellar Wind Wolfrayet, which came out a few sets ago back in Dawn of Majesty, the level 10 Synchro that gets a counter and can then tribute itself to bounce everything on the field. It's a little bit different, and what I think really gives this a bit of strength is the fact that you can summon it just by banishing a tuner Synchro and Blackwing Dragon, which is really easy to set up. I don't know how often you're really going to just hard Synchro summon this. It seems like the best bet is going to be to utilize it with that sort of bypassing the Synchro Summon restriction and using cards in your graveyard that you've already put into something else, and in that case, it's really good because it does put pressure on the opponent, and it's very easy to make. Moving on to the next Synchro monster, we've got Blackwing Bereas, the Evil Wind, which is a level 6 Wing Beast Tuner Synchro, one Dark Tuner and one non-tuner monster. If this card is Synchro Summon, you can send one Blackwing monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, this card's level becomes that monster's level until the end of the turn. When this card destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can banish one Blackwing monster from your field or grave, special summon that destroyed monster to the field in defense position. So it's essentially a YuGiOh Guardian for Blackwings with the benefit that you can mill a Blackwing from the deck, and that's obviously really important, especially because you can modify the level as a result. And being a tuner Synchro, you can use it to make Blackwing Assault Dragon, especially because it does not care about levels if you're bypassing that summon restriction, so it's kind of a neat way to, you know, get this out and not have to worry too much about it. This pretty much sets you up for that combo in combination with some of your new cards. Now, we've got Black Feather Whirlwind, which is a continuous spell, and is obviously reminiscent of Black Whirlwind by design. Once per turn, if you special summon a Dark Synchro monster from the extra deck, you can target one of your Blackwing monsters or Blackwing Dragon with lower attack that is banished or in your grave, special summon it. Once per turn, if a Dark monster you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can remove one Black Feather counter from your field instead. So this is a Black Whirlwind that instead of searching when you normal summon, allows you to revive a banished or engrave monster when you special summon. Of course, it is a once per turn, so you do have that restriction, but it combos really well with a lot of your cards that are designed to banish and sort of set up to function in that way, which means it does have a lot going for it. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Black Whirlwind, but it's searchable by a ton of things in the deck and can even be cheesed out directly by some of your monsters, so it's a pretty cool support piece for them, and definitely better in terms of like being new spell and trap support that's actually pretty viable for Blackwings in comparison to what we've gotten in the last few support updates. Now, Black Shadow Squall is a counter trap that says when a spell or trap is activated, you can remove one Black Feather counter from your field, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Not super hard to set up, but still a little slow in that regard. If you control Blackwing Dragon, you can set this card from your graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. So it combos well with cards like Blackbird Close from the Duelist pack a couple years ago that came out that allow you to sort of negate monster effects and then also spell and trap effects, but it still can be kind of a bricky draw if you don't have a consistent way to get Blackwing Dragon out on the field quick, so it's worth considering whether or not it's actually going to be a viable option for you as you go through your deck building process. And the last trap is Blackwing Twin Shadow. It's a normal trap. Return 2 of your Blackwing monsters that are banished and or in your graveyard to the deck and or extra deck, 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner. Special summon 1 Blackwing Synchro monster or 1 Blackwinged Dragon from your extra deck whose level exactly equals the total level of those 2 monsters. If you control 2 or more Blackwing monsters, you can activate this card from your hand. So, the Blackwings that you're special summoning or returning to the deck to special summon do have to be either banished or in the grave. They cannot be on the field, but if you control 2 Blackwing monsters, you can play this from your hand, so it's not as slow and does allow you to push to put more pressure on the opponent and get more setup on the board. Especially because you can simply banish those monsters to bring out the new Synchro without having to worry too much about additional restrictions, and that definitely does help to give you more playability. Blackwinged Assault Dragon, of course, is not Blackwinged Dragon, so it doesn't meet the requirements for some of these traps that, you know, need you to have it on the field in order to activate, but it's still overall a pretty cool package that gives Blackwings a new arsenal of cards to play with and does update a lot of their support to be more viable in the current meta. So let me know what you guys think overall about these new Blackwing cards coming out in Darkwing Blast. I'm excited about it in the sense that they are really solid, but I don't know that Blackwings are just the archetype. I mean, there's so many archetypes that could benefit from support. At least it's good support and not necessarily all pack filler. Do you guys think it'll make a difference? Sound off in the comments down below and let me know. I know a few people who are going to be super excited about this that are just hardcore Blackwing fans, so I'm happy for them, but hopefully this set does bring us some more variety in terms of other support cards as well. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.